When you buy your first home, you're prepared for surprises, maybe an old pipe leaking or a creaky floorboard the inspector missed. But the last thing I expected was a bill from the HOA for a fence I didn't even know existed and didn't build. This is the story of how my HOA tried to scam me out of $3,000 for a fence they installed before I even moved in, and how their lie unraveled in court, one smug board member at a time. The new homeowner, I bought a small single-family home in Cedar Ridge Estates, a quiet HOA-managed community that marketed itself as hassle-free living. Everything looked clean, the neighbors seemed friendly, and the home was in great condition. The backyard was already fenced on all sides, wood panels, 6 feet tall, in good shape. I didn't think twice about it. The property had been a rental for years before I bought it. No major red flags came up during escrow or inspection. I moved in, unpacked my boxes, and started settling into what I thought was the beginning of a peaceful chapter. Then, just 3 weeks after moving in, I got a letter. The $3,000 surprise. It was from the Cedar Ridge HOA, stamped urgent. Inside was an invoice. Fence assessment, $3,145.42, due within 30 days. No breakdown, no explanation. Just a single line. Property improvement. Rear fence replacement shared. I was stunned. I hadn't touched the fence, hadn't requested improvements. I wasn't even aware of any fence work being done. I immediately emailed the HOA. I didn't authorize this fence project. I just moved in. There must be some mistake. They replied the next day the fence replacement was completed 6 months ago as part of a special assessment. Homeowners are responsible for adjacent shared fences. Please remit payment. Wait 6 months ago? I hadn't even signed a contract yet 6 months ago. I hadn't even seen the house in person yet. This was before I became the legal owner. I pushed back. That charge predates my ownership. I'm not responsible for it. Their response, as the current homeowner, the assessment transfers to you. Digging into the timeline at this point, I started digging. I looked up my closing documents, the property's escrow timeline, the HO's meeting minutes, which I had the right to request under state law, and here's what I found. The fence work was ordered in March, closed escrow in June. The previous owner had already signed an agreement with the HOA for the assessment, but sold the home before paying. That agreement was between the HOA and the previous owner, not me. So I sent a formal dispute, including documents showing I wasn't the legal owner when the charge was initiated or finalized. They replied with a lien threat. Escalation. Lien and legal trouble. The next month, I received a notice of intent to place a lien on my property. If I didn't pay now, it wasn't just a scam, it was turning into harassment. So I hired a real estate attorney. He took one look at the timeline and said, "This is textbook fraud. They're trying to offload a prior homeowner's debt onto you. Totally illegal." He filed a cease and desist letter and gave the HOA 10 days to withdraw the invoice, remove the lien threat, and issue an apology. The HOA fired back saying, "Precedent has been set in our community for these types of rollovers." My lawyer's response? Precedent doesn't override contract law. So we filed in small claims court, suing for $3,145.42, wrongful charge, $800 in legal fees, $2,000 in emotional distress and time lost. Court day. HOA gets exposed. When we showed up in court, the HOA sent Trevor, their treasurer, a guy who looked like he belonged in an insurance commercial. All fake smiles and bad hair gel. Trevor tried to argue that their bylaws allowed assessments to carry over to new owners. The judge asked, was the plaintiff the legal owner at the time the fence agreement was made? Trevor, no, but was the fence constructed before or after the plaintiff took ownership? Trevor, before, but the dues the judge held up a hand. That's all I need. The verdict, we won every dollar, $3,145 for the fence, $800 for attorney fees, $2,000 in damages, plus court fees. The judge was blunt. This HOA acted in bad faith and attempted to enforce a contract on someone who was not a party to it. That's unacceptable. Trevor's face turned as pale as the court documents in his briefcase, but it didn't stop there. He fallout after the judgment. I shared my experience in the community Facebook group. Dozens of neighbors chimed in. Turns out, this wasn't the first time the HOA had tried to roll previous owner costs onto new residents. Most had just paid without asking questions. A few even contacted my attorney and filed their own small claims cases. Within 60 days, the HOA president and treasurer both resigned. A new election was held. The new board revised the policy and added a clause: no assessment may be transferred to a homeowner who did not hold title at the time of approval. The fence today, the fence, still standing. And I didn't pay a dime for it. But more importantly, no one else will be scammed by Cedar Ridge's shady tactics again. All because I said 3 simple words: prove it legally.